Hi everyone, I'm Rachel and this is Beyond Words Presents. Welcome! And I am so excited for today because this topic and this guest, everything is so near and dear to my heart. So this week we are talking with Marie Holmes, author of Earth Spirit Living, Bringing Heaven and Nature into Your Home. Welcome, Marie!
Hi, Rachel. I'm
Hi!
excited too.
Well,
You've
before we
been
get
with
started,
me.
I just want to mention to all the viewers once again, you can participate in the conversation, asking questions, submitting comments by going to Twitter and using our hashtag BWPresents or through the Google Hangouts app. And as always, if you like our show, please support us by subscribing to our YouTube channel. So now that we have all the logistics out of the way, I want to jump in because I have a feeling this is going to be a jam-packed hour with stuff. And I think this is on a lot of people's minds, and so I kind of want to jump right in. So are you ready?
I'm ready, Rachel.
Okay,
Let's
cool.
go.
All right, so as I was preparing, I kind of went through your book, and in the preface of your book, you talk about a dream that you had, and the message of that dream being that our bond or our agreement with Earth had been broken, that the old ways were on their way out. And the message of this, that was the message, but you felt that, we did have opportunities and that you were encouraged that we could work with the Earth, with our environment to heal not only the Earth but us as well. So it's now 8 years later, and it's probably pretty safe to say that the world is probably in a worse state. So I'm just curious. Do you still believe that? How does that look now? Has it changed? What would you like to tell people about that?
Well, yes, I do believe we are moving forward, but we are in a very, very intense time of quickening. And this is a new notion of awakening to this quickening. It's not something that's going to happen overnight. It is going to take some time. This hasn't been happening to this level for centuries. In my dream, it happened to me when I was really questioning whether I could do this work, because I had a very dangerous incident happen that affected my life. So a lot of that came up, in the feelings. It's like, how can I cope? And the message, it was just words I heard, was, kind of like, pick up yourself and move forward because those times are over. A lot of times what we're feeling right now is an intense grief from we were not connected anymore. So we're feeling that grief and it's holding us back. So what we need to do is go ahead anyway. And it's going to take years for this partnership to really be actualized. We have to realize that. And it's still very foreign to many of us. It's still the idea that the Earth is a partner, which is my main message, is still foreign to a lot of people. But what is happening, and since the 7 years, almost 8, there is a lot of change going on. I mean, we have change every other hour, it seems, now. And there's an intensity going on that this planet has not seen before. The intensity brings up incredible opportunities, and it also brings up incredible obstacles. But the main point is that the old ways of controlling nature, seeing it as something that we just put whatever we want on it, is that whole way is corroding. And in that process of corrosion, there's a lot of uncomfortable, yucky things going on. But if you can think of it as destructuring, it's destructuring the old patterns. And bit by bit, the new patterns are coming in. Now, what I have noticed in the 8 years, when I wrote this, we didn't have social media. We didn't have Facebook. We didn't have this opportunity to speak live, you know, to really chat about this. Mm-hmm. So it's becoming a person-by-person movement. And it's getting the word out. Like on Facebook now, this is my source for sustainable news. You know, the news regular news does not report what's really going on as far as what sustainability and nature and natural ways of living. So I get informed on Facebook and other social media. And also, the big topic here right now is the GMOs. And I mean, we never even talked about that. That was like verboten, you know. So there's a lot of discussion going on. So it's going to take a while because the old ways are still trying to hold on, you know, but it's starting to corrode. They can't keep us quiet anymore.
Right.
So, yeah.
Well, and I have to say personally that I really identify with what you said about feeling the grief. It's been something that has kind of been in the background of how I feel, and I couldn't quite put a finger on it. And I think it was a lot of what you were talking about is things are changing, things are moving away, and yes, there's opportunities, and yes, there's you know, you hear the saying the old has to crumble to make way for the new. But moving through that transition, you know, and feeling that heaviness and looking at all the bad news and feeling helpless and hopeless and what can I do and oh my gosh, what do I tell my kids? You know, all of that grief kind of rolls up into one. And so I'm just curious, you know, as we continue, you know, moving forward, you know, stepping forward, what are some of the things that we can really remember to kind of stay out of the depths of despair, and really, you know, what are some simple things we can do to really kind of tune in, make those little connections that kind of keep our momentum going, go, yeah, this is really worth it. This is really what I want to do. What are some things to do in those situations?
Well, one is to remember the grief is old and that it's not current. Mm-hmm. So you just keep telling yourself to let that go. The next thing to do is to do small things in your yard or your home, like just even bringing in a flower with the intention of, I can really connect with what is moving forward. We have to practice. We're like in the Olympics, okay? You know, an Olympic athlete has to practice and practice and practice before they're ready to do their activity. We're doing the same thing. We're not going to have, I mean, a lot of times maybe an Olympic athlete, you know, they fall down, they may get injured, but they get back up. That's what this time is about. You cannot let the outside influences get in the way. So, but I have found in my own experience that when I do those small acts, you know, even for me, it's taking a walk with the dog, or it's sitting down and doing a little gardening. But when I'm doing the gardening, I am totally present to that moment. I'm not going to let anything interrupt me. And I'm going to say, nature, you are a sustenance, and I know that you're here to help us. So I'm asking for that. We have to sit down. We have to ask. We have to not let our mind go, oh, gosh, the latest killing, which, you know, you guys just had in Oregon. Yeah. And that's, I mean, that is really coming forward. I mean, it's almost like some terrible incident a week. So, I mean, the whole gun industry is going to have to be really woken up here. I mean, you know, that's starting to change. Mm-hmm. But, you know, with your kids especially, because they probably, you know, they're hearing all this. It's like, yikes, how do I go to school, you know? But take them out in nature and create an opposite, a contrast, so that they can, or get them to move, you know, get them to get exercise, because that's also getting the prana and the real energy moving through. Because we go to our minds, and we are not allowing the amazing energy that is available to us to come through us.
Mm-hmm.
So that's very important. Another thing that is really good to do is to do something that's very uncomfortable and unfamiliar. You know, like you just moved to a new house, I know.
Yeah.
Or buying a new car or going to a new restaurant. I mean, it can be simple, but that also gets your attention off what you've been thinking about, and it allows you to focus on something that's unfamiliar and new, so it pushes you in a new direction, which is what we have to keep doing for ourselves. You know, when I wrote this book, I thought I was going to be in Oregon forever, but then I got the guidance, or however you want to say it, to move. I went, what? And I needed to get into something totally unfamiliar and to open up new ways. So that's it, you know, because, you know, if you move to a new house, you have to put the furniture in, you have to put a garden in. So, you know, it's like your mind gets occupied on going forward. So I hope that's okay if I used you for a minute, Rachel.
Oh, of course, because I'm going to be bringing some of that stuff up later, too. So that's just fine. And I wanted to give you a chance also to talk a little bit. I know before we came on, we were also talking about the feminine, the divine feminine. How
Yes.
do you see that interacting with everything that's happening right now? Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yes, yes. The sacred feminine, the divine feminine, the natural way of living is what another way of saying it. The real way of communicating, the true way of really expressing who we are, just plain out, you know, without any kind of just feeling comfortable with saying what we know. That's kind of how the divine feminine looks. The old ways are used to kind of covering things and presenting it in a beautiful way so that people will like it. This way is like just letting it all out. And the intensity of all that, it's like a childbirth almost. You know, before a childbirth, there's an intensity of a push, of a force. And she is descending. And she is like, out of the way, folks. And you can really, part of the intensity, people go, ooh, there's something wrong. Actually, no. It's also the true, real connection with life, with nature and everyday life. It's like the visible and the invisible are becoming one.
Mm.
The divine feminine for a long time has been behind a veil. You know, that's also how we've seen the divine feminine. You don't always see her face. Well, she's going to show her face. And the veil is thinning. So the intensity, almost an anxiety, it's like, well, how do we do that? Mm-hmm. Our whole nervous system is changing, you know. That's why we are getting more opportunities. That's why change is imminent. Because right before birth, my goodness, everything is shaking, you know. And so that's what this is. Now, this is a long-term process, but I think she's coming down faster than she was before.
Well, that's probably a good thing.
Yes, yes. But it's forcing people to get into joy, to do what they really love. I mean, we've heard this for centuries, right? But this is visceral. Mm. This is like becoming in almost our DNA. So when you go and work in your garden, or you even just move a piece of furniture, and you do it with a sense of, oh, I'm in the moment, I'm doing exactly what I need to do, you're calling in support from a level that's like, oh gosh, these humans are going to use us. And you will find like even moving a piece of furniture could be a really blissful thing.
Yes, I can attest to that.
Yeah, okay. Well, you're probably doing that a little bit. I'm going back to you. But here is a nice, a little different project to do. I mean, it's just, we would call it a cure in Feng Shui. It came from Professor Lin, the teacher that I've had. Mm. And that is to move 9 or 27 things in your environment that you haven't moved for 6 months. Mm. That probably wouldn't apply to you. You did it all at once.
Yeah.
But what doing is just opening up the environment for support, especially if you're feeling stuck, especially if you're feeling overwhelmed. That's a good thing to do. Does that help?
That's great. That's so great. And I just want to mention to everyone out there that Anne-Marie has put together a lovely bundle for everybody today. You not only get her book, Earth Spirit Living, but she also has included a little ebook about trees, specifically about trees, which I am really eager to read because we have no trees around my house right now, and I'm looking to put some in. So she has a PDF of that for you. She also has offered a 30-minute consultation specifically for you about your home, your land, environment, etc. So you can talk one-on-one with Anne-Marie. We are offering that to everybody for $49.95 today, which is a 47% discount. So yeah, thank you for putting that together, Anne-Marie. I'm super excited about that one, and I might be getting one myself. So we actually have a question for you, actually from another staff member, Lindsay. She has a question for you. She says that that Cynthia actually had you help her prepare her home at Pumpkin Ridge. Cleared and kind of the property cleaned up of all the smaller trees and the underbrush to keep the forest around her home clear so that the fire was less likely. She's wondering, could you speak to the growing issue of forest fires in the West and what that might mean?
Yes, that's true. There's a lot of, imbalance in the way we have planted forests, and also just in nature in general. So nature's trying to show us our weak links. But I have a really good answer. A forest fire, or even a fire on your own home, can be considered a cleanse as long as no one is hurt. So even if there are a lot of trees burnt, it's an awakening process, perhaps, for how those trees were planted, how the forest is maintained, are there chemicals there. It's going to help people begin to re-look some on how we do our forests. And if our home burns down, it's also a time of huge transformation, obviously. But as I was saying earlier, it's important not to see obstacles as a problem, but as an opportunity. I mean, we kind of heard that, but this is so real now. It's like almost every hour we're having something come up. But it's meant to really show us and to get into an unfamiliar place so that we open up to new things. So it's a message for how we haven't planted correctly, but it's also a cleanse for the earth because it's getting rid of some of those chemicals, some of those unhealthy trees. And it's awakening people to, gee, maybe we shouldn't put a house in the middle of a forest. Maybe that's not a good idea. Helping us learn how to put houses and land together. Maybe it's not a good idea to put a house, here I am by the ocean, right by the beach. We could have tsunamis. So it's also trying to educate people about how to place living situations and humans together.
Right. Well, let's talk a little bit about that because in your book, you talk about invisible Earth energy patterns, and then you say within the intangible planetary grid, trees anchor a strong energy that is vital to the well-being of humans and the rest of the natural world. And I imagine trees are just one aspect of that anchoring and being a part of that energy pattern and grid. So what are some of the key things to think about when we're moving, when we're building, when we're changing our yards when we're planting, things like that. How do we work well with that energy grid and those anchors?
Good question. We need to be aware that our homes, our land, are like a partner. They're alive. They have an essence, a presence to them. Some of the houses are asleep. They've never been really talked to. But a brand new house is usually pretty open, usually not too grounded. But first of all, to see this land and this house as a partner. So what I like to do is use a metaphor of when we go to see a doctor and they say, you know, we need to work on your body, we need to maybe have an operation with your body. They give you a description of what they're going to do. They give you a timeline of when it's going to happen. They tell you what's going to happen afterwards. We need to see our houses and our sites as bodies as well, living bodies. So one of the first things to do is to really walk around the site and just listen. And one of the ways you're connecting with nature, first of all, is you ask. What I always suggest is to walk the boundaries and to ask nature to connect with you. She's usually so excited when somebody says that. And the way she will respond is through aroma, maybe a bird flying overhead. Pay attention if you ask a question, if the wind moves. That's all direct communication with nature. That is very strong. So if a rainbow comes out, you pay attention. If you ask a question and maybe there's a little cat fight next door, that is kind of a signal that maybe what you're thinking is not a good idea. So you pay attention. All of life responds to us. As humans, we are amazing instruments for this earth. I mean, we are the mediators here for bringing form and no form together. So our job is huge, and one of the ways we do that is through our homes. So that's the first thing. So if you decide you're going to plant a tree, or if you're in a neighborhood, I mean, I've dealt a lot with, in Oregon, especially when we need to cut trees, how you do it. And that's what I did with Cindy, because she was concerned when she was thinning her forest about how to do it. So that's another whole process. You consider talking to the trees, like I'll use Cindy for an example. Tell the trees that we're thinning you. You know, we're not. It's part of how to keep a healthy forest, and they're fine with that. They just want to know ahead of time what's happening, and then give them time. Like I would suggest 3 days to kind of adapt the energy pattern for change, and then time afterwards before you take the next action. So for you, it would be in your process, you would start the planting, but also I would walk your land and just really hear what nature has to say there. And then take time. I mean, remodeling always, or, you know, planting, starting a new project on a site always takes longer because we're putting in patterns that have never been there. So it's a web that's being woven. And you have to allow the energetics to connect. So that's why it takes longer. So if you kind of set that in motion as you go and just expect it, it's kind of like after an operation you have recovery period, right? You get adjusted to whatever happened. Mm-hmm. So that's what you're doing with the land. So you go and pat it and go, how are you doing? And you do need a schedule because you know, well, I'm working with a client. He's really very dear. He is remodeling his house. And he's got the architect, he's got the designer, he's got the fellows working on the house, and then he calls me to come in and to listen to the earth. So he's like the ideal client. But that's the way that would be great if you had someone working with the energetics as well. And one person, I mean, the owner can do that. But he's saying, because of some of the things I've recommended before, he said, wow, I'd never thought of it that way. So it helps sometimes to get somebody on the outside, but it is an example of what I'm talking about, where you also bring in the Earth's particular needs as well as the human needs.
Yeah, I really like that. I like the partnership between the folks such as you or homeowners who are particularly in tune to marry that, respect and reverence for this life that's around you, along with, the practical folks who are there trying to build something. I think it just makes a bigger, better picture, and just I think it would help both sides out a lot. Because we all know our homes are our sanctuaries. There are safe places. There are places to rest and beauty. That's kind of what I associate that with. So, me being a new homeowner, going from the country, from a place that was surrounded by land and trees and wildlife and space and bugs and all manner of things, to a lot in a neighborhood has kind of been shocking to my system a little bit.
Yes.
I am literally chomping at the bit just to get out there and put something in the ground and do something. And certain things right now are preventing me from doing that. And to have this kind of bare slate, this scraped ground to come and live on, it was just like, I need to do something about, I need to bring back in life there. And so I'm kind of feeling my way how to do that. And I'll ask you some questions a little bit later on some of those specifics, but we do have another viewer question, and their question revolves around the home as well. The viewer says, I am interested in finding a way to bring the 4 earth elements, earth, water, air, and fire, into my home with the hope to create balance. Can you suggest creative ways to do this or other ways to bring about balance in the home?
Yes, using the elements are very important, and that's an old way of doing it. And yes, it can be very simple. A lot of it can be intention. I mean, a simple way for the fire energy is just to bring in lighting. A simple way for the water energy is to create some sort of a lovely fountain, or just even a bowl of water. I think of Bali right now, because they're totally always making offerings for the home, the corners of the streets, and they use the elements as a way to do that. So another way is, especially, if we can have this kind of space in our life, but to make an offering in your house every day is another wonderful way. Another way, using the elements again, of course, is to bring in either the color green or green plants, especially in an area that feels maybe a little buzzy. That's where you kind of walk around your house. The viewer is asking about balance. There are some times in a house where it might feel more buzzy. That's how I experience it. Also the other thing is, we can tune into our house by how our body reacts. And we can feel different areas. So like a place that feels kind of buzzy, or you're thinking more in that area, you have to kind of just put your house detective ears on and cross out everything else around you. But when you do, you're also going to feel incredible joy, especially you, Rachel. So it's like the most fun thing to do.
Yeah.
So if you feel a buzzy, then that's a good place to put water or green. So that is a way to create balance. Another way, and I'll just give like a little activity to do, because I think because of all the change that we're going through, we need to balance a lot. It keeps changing, but the definition of balance keeps changing.
Yes.
Oh, yesterday it was a balance, but today, oh, well. So this is an activity. It takes a little bit of time, but it can hold for a while. And that's to open all the doors and windows of the body of your house. Turn on all the water, because that's elements we're talking. Opening the windows is air. Turning on all the burners, that's the fire element. You turn on the water in the bathtub, everywhere. You turn on all the lights, that's also the fire element. And you go around and clap in all the corners. And you ask for the elements to rebalance, and just for the whole house to take a big, deep breath. And you should feel a difference. Then you come back, you start at the front door, and you go around and you turn all these elements on. And then when you feel it's cooked, you know, like it's really taken, and that's something you just sense, then you go and turn it all off and come back to the front door and just give thanks. But first of all, you tell the house what you're going to do, because they're like, okay, wow, something's going on here. You open all the doors as well. But they might try that, too, because it's very fun to do.
That's excellent. I'm going to have to try that in my own house. I like that.
Yeah.
So I'm going to just remind all our viewers again that Anne-Marie has put together a lovely bundle for us today. Her book, Earth Spirit Living, which goes through and actually talks about all kinds of different aspects. New homes, building your home, living in apartments, living in the city as opposed to the country, bringing in elements into your home, as well as ceremonies and exercises that you can do to connect with nature, your home, and whatever land spirits might be there. So we've got her book. We also have a lovely PDF specifically on trees, and we have a 30-minute consultation with Anne-Marie about your own home and space. So we're offering that for $49.95, 47% discount. Managed to say it that time. So feel free to please look at her bundle, and I really encourage folks to get this. This is lovely and timely, and I think it has a lot of things everybody can use. And so we actually have a live viewer question for you, Anne-Marie, from Deborah. She asks how to contact the energy in her home. She lives in a small apartment on a main road, and there's a lot of noise in the mornings. She has very few plants because they always die. So do you have any advice for Deborah?
And she's feeling, can she keep talking to us? Is she feeling this being in the house? Is that what
That's kind of what I gather. It looks like she's in a small apartment on her main road, lots of chaos, especially in the mornings, and it sounds like what she does bring in the way of plants don't quite make it. So she's not quite sure, how to contact or connect with that energy in her house to create more balance. Maybe she can try the thing that you just suggested as a starting point.
Yeah, I would. It could be, it feels a little bit like it could be a nature being, or even like a little ghosty. If there's chaos, but only in the morning. I would try that. Another thing she would do, especially if she can locate where this energy is to take Epsom salts, like 2 tablespoons of Epsom salts, because that's a cleanse right there, and 1 tablespoon of rubbing alcohol. And you place that in a glass dish, and you place it, like for this viewer, Deborah, place it in the area where she's feeling the most chaos, I guess is a good word for her. And if there's doors and windows around that area, to close them so that it's contained. And you light this. And it's a smokeless fire, and it can really sometimes. I have done this, and it's cleansed the whole area, and that chaos and that kind of feeling can go away. If the plants are dying, though, there could be a ghost or some kind of drain that's happening with that energy. But I would start there. A lot of times they will go when that happens. If that's what the deal is.
Well, that gives Deborah a place to start, and if you have any of these types of questions, once again, check out Anne-Marie's bundle. You can find it on www.beyondword.com/Holmes. And, the 30-minute consultation in and of itself is amazing and, might just be what people need. So be sure to check that out, too. So speaking of nature beings, and Holmes is spelled Holmes. Okay, so we got all that. Okay, I have to pay attention to my producer. So speaking of nature beings, let's talk a little bit about that, because when we speak about the land being alive and partnering with the land and our environment and our homes, it just seems to reason that there would be beings in these places, land beings, water beings, tree spirits, a myriad of different beings or spirits that are residing in these places along with us. So can you talk a little bit about what those are and how they might show themselves, or what we might see that would tell us, oh, I might be dealing with this?
Right. Well, as you mentioned in your question to me, there are many cultures that have talked about connecting with nature, and they have many names for nature energy. So it's especially the indigenous people their senses were more open. We've been taught to shut down our ability to really sense and to observe. I mean, sometimes it's just observation. And I think this was a huge wake-up call, and it's been some time, but that big tsunami in Thailand that happened, and people were shocked. And I remember in the story, there was an island in the center of where this catastrophe was, and there were indigenous people living there, and they thought, well, those people are probably gone, but they had to fly in a helicopter to get to them. So they flew there, and all 150 of them were waving on the beach like, well, why are you guys here? And so they landed and said, how did you survive? And they said, well, we just paid attention. It's been in our lineage. We have an oral story that when the waves go out, you go up. So it was common sense. So that's a lot of what this is. So nature is communicating all the time by the way the winds are blowing, by the way the ocean is moving, by the way the sun is moving. And when you put your senses out, which is what we need to practice to do, and I think a lot of us as children, we're feeling things more, and a lot of times our children do feel things. So we've been taught to shut that down. So nature energies are like energy managers for the land. They have a job of helping the energetic blueprint come into form. So that's what their job is to help that. And if they can talk to a human in the meantime to help that happen, then and we can sense them mostly through simple things like an aroma, like on our land, and I relate to you a lot, Rachel, because I lived on 5 acres. I had to move into a neighborhood here. But on our 5 acres, we were showing a gentleman around to help us with water flow, and all of a sudden we got this very strong smell, as we're walking around. And I went, wow, it was from the water, but we're back. It was kind of like a smell from where mud and water are all together. But we were in the back part of the land, so there was no water, but the smell seemed to be going with us. So when I tuned in, it was a water being going, okay, we're just checking to see if this guy is really okay. But it was through the aroma that we figured out who it was.
Okay.
So those are the kinds of things. Or if a flower moves suddenly, or if a droplet of water all of a sudden becomes a rainbow. All of those are messages. And that's nature spirits connecting. It's a vibration. It's a quality. so it's a little bit more intense where they are. So they will shimmer, you know, they're kind of, they're activists. They connect with you. I mean, sometimes people will hear a voice, but a lot of times, very simply, it's how nature responds when you put that out. And then you sit down and you ask, what does this mean? Like, that's what we did with this strong smell. And that's when we got the message.
Okay.
Does that help?
Yeah, that's great. Oh, and a live viewer named Corrine wants to say hi.
Oh, hi, Corrine. Oh, nice. Thank you for coming.
So, gosh, there are so many questions I would love to ask. You know, it brings to mind, you know, as you're speaking about observation and, you know, how to interpret what we might see, as, you know, as opposed to putting meaning, you know, there where it might not be. Just for myself, as to give an example, when we moved into this new house, you know, it was cool, but it was different, and I left all this stuff, and now I'm over here. But what I noticed was that there was a hawk, and it was circling our house, and it tends to land on a light post directly behind our house. That was the first thing I saw, and I'm like, oh, okay, this is going to be a good place. It might not be my ideal right now, but it's going to be a good place. And then I also noticed other little things, like my rosemary plant. Never, ever has bloomed in the, I don't know how many years I've had it.
Wow.
It's blooming.
Wow, sweetie.
And so it's those little things. It's like, okay, I can feel okay being here. This is going to work out, and I just have to kind of move through it and work with it, and it'll all be okay. But it's those little things that is that kind of what you're talking about? Is just...
Oh, those are perfect examples. And what I want to say, because I did a similar thing, I moved from acreage to a neighborhood, is you've graduated, see? You've graduated from your other place. So it's time for you to have a new palette. So you have a fresh canvas, because you have nothing but dirt, okay? But to look at it as a fresh canvas. And nature, from what I'm hearing, is celebrating you coming into the neighborhood.
Okay.
And when I moved into this house, there was a lot of energetic work to do. I went, oh, wow. But I needed to apply it to a neighborhood, you know, and it did take some years. This house had been a rental for quite a while, and the neighborhood had used it as a playground. So everybody was coming to this house. So I had to do a lot of planting too. And, but we did it with intention. I mean, with a fresh palette like you have, you can set a tone that is invaluable. So, but
well, that's
yes,
what excites me. That's what really is exciting, is we get to create it, and we can do it in partnership now rather than have it be there for us beforehand.
Yes.
So.
Yes. It will take a while.
Yeah, it will. It will take time, and that's okay. I get impatient, but, you know, it is what it is. So, but we did hear back from Deborah, who asked earlier. She says thank you, and she lives in Caracas, Venezuela.
Wow.
So she says, my plants are so sad, I think. But thank you. So.
Well, I hope it works. I'd love to know how it is. Yeah.
Let's see. So, gosh, we're already running out of time. So once again, I just want to remind the viewers about Anne Marie's bundle that she put together. You will get her book, Earth Spirit Living, which is just chock full of goodness and exercises and ideas and things to create balance in your home, bring the elements into your home, work in partnership with nature. Great book. And she also has put together a PDF specifically about trees, and you get a 30-minute consultation with Anne Marie about your own home and space. So I think that in and of itself is just like worth the whole thing. So we are selling that for $49.95, which is 47%. I don't know why I can't say that percentage. 47% off. And you can find that bundle at www.beyondword.com/Holmes, Holmes. Okay, so let's see what we can push into the last 15 minutes of our conversation here.
Okay.
So let's see. Okay, so let me talk about, and this can happen for, I think, anybody, anywhere. If things happen in the home, say you're putting in a new irrigation system, or the plumbing goes out, or you're not only remodeling, but you might be pulling in, say, giant rocks that have been grabbed from who knows where and brought to your space. All these things, we don't really think about when we do them, but is there a better way to think about these processes to make those projects go more smoothly for everybody involved?
Yes, well, you mentioned all major ones, and I found that the biggest challenges that I found for projects were the way we placed water and how we did irrigate, how we put pipes in, all of that. So the more we can pay attention to natural flows for water, and we do have to, put water in pipes. But for instance, I can give an example. In Ashland, I worked with a developer who was building beautiful, sustainable homes, but they weren't selling. So when I walked on the land, now I don't always have this happen, but this definitely happened on this site, the water beings were walking across the land going, nothing is going to happen here. So I went,
oh no.
They were carrying signs, like protests, and I and this fellow was kind of new to this, but I said, did you do something with water here? He said, yes, we rerouted an irrigation canal and put it into a big pipe and in a right angle. So you also want to pay attention to how the development was created. So there's nothing you can do about that, but one of the things that changed for him is that the moment that I addressed it, it opened up a movement on the land, and he actually, there was more that we did, but he actually sold the house the next day because he was willing to acknowledge there was an invisible level. So that's one of the first things you do, is just, okay, we have to put in some irrigation, let nature know that that's going to happen, go back to that. With stones, big stones that are coming in, I think that's a very good idea. I would leave them alone for a while. They're kind of like adopted puppies or kittens. They need time to adjust to their new environment. This has, it's not totally the same, but I bought a Buddha one time, and when I went to put the Buddha in the car, he said he didn't want to go. So you might also listen to all these different things. Yeah. But I brought him home, and we couldn't put him in the place we wanted to. We had to get to know him for a period of time. So he sat on our kitchen table for 3 months. So that's a different, but it's the idea that these stones, first of all, if we're using those, they were taken in a way that wasn't really connecting with the earth. And second of all, now they're in a new place, and you can tell them, we're sorry, but we're here to transform that. And they'll lighten up, and you will feel, you can feel kind of like a coldness, or like, if you have a new kitten, they're kind of like, oh, how do I be here? That you'll feel that, but just give nature time to change.
Okay.
But it's so normal on sites to not pay attention to what nature needs. So just opening up to it is a major first step and a big step.
Right. And what would people do? Say they forget or they don't know to ask or to let the land know that they're going to be doing something. There's something you can do after the fact.
Oh, yes. She's very forgiving. So I mean, there are times when you're on a deadline, especially how fast things are today. You can also just put it out in a general way as you start the project, that you're really wanting to be open to sensing and connecting, but if I miss something, just understand that that's what happened.
Okay.
But you can go back, especially there are different, the trees. When trees get cut, a lot of times people will feel that. They don't know what they're feeling. But you can go to that tree, even though it's not there, but the tree spirit's still there, and just acknowledge it. Gee, I'm so sorry this happened to you, but you know, we can make it come into balance now, and that can work very easily.
Okay, well that's good to know. I think I probably made a few boo-boos along the way, so I'm going back out there. But I wanted to briefly touch on also that about people's workspaces. You know, gosh, I spend a good portion of my day here, and usually people in workspaces can't really control their area as much as they can their own home. So what would you suggest for those types of places?
I would bring in as much sensual connection that you can. So I can see, and is this your office where you are right now? No.
Well, I'm in another room, but my office is in the back corner. I'm in the very back corner cubby. So.
Well, where you are right now is very good because there's plants all around. You know, of course, the book is showing. That's always good. But there are stones, so that's texture.
Okay.
And the more you can stimulate the senses, that will keep you staying awake and connecting. Having water, I would have a fresh flower if you could, you know. Another thing that really helps, because a lot of when you're spending time in your office, you have to keep awake, you know, it's staying really focused. So another is using a color circuit. So a color circuit could be the colors of the rainbow. It could be the colors of the elements, which are white, red, yellow, green, blue, and just using that in a circuit. Color is very stimulating. And wearing color. Another thing you can do is to sit on a red cushion or a purple one. It helps you focus, and using color and changing it up as much as you can. Having a little bells, having sound around, you know, nothing too big, but it's stimulating the senses because that helps you feel more of the vitality because you're using a lot of voice, a lot of thinking. And so it helps you also to connect with the bigger part as well, the intuitive side.
Okay, great. I'm going
to give simple things.
I'm going to give some of those ideas to Richard and Tim as they're planning our next office change. See if we can get some more sensual stuff in to help with that. That would be great.
Yeah, texture, all of those things.
Okay, great. Awesome ideas. Well, we have, I don't know, like 7 minutes left. So I kind of wanted to give people, the best way that they can connect. I know I've been looking at a lot of the viewer questions and my own feelings about how best to connect. Is it sitting in your home and just opening yourself up? Is it going outside and actually plopping yourself on the ground? Are there any specific exercises or things that you do to help open that channel between yourself and nature at large? Can you leave everybody with some of those things?
Well, why don't we do something? Let's do something.
Okay.
Is that okay?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, so let's just get comfortable and sit as comfortably as you can, up straight, really opening your spine and your heart chakra. And you can be outside, that is ideal, but sometimes being right in your own home is important. So begin by taking some really deep breaths. That's really important these days. I know we've heard this, and when you're breathing in, I mean, take a really deep inhale. Let's do that. And then as you exhale, just make a sound. And feel your body. Feel it going down into the trunk of your body. Breathe in and out. Down to your feet. And you might feel a tingling. So let's just do a few of those on our own. So let's just breathe for a few seconds here. Just feel your feet, feel your heels. More breath. And through the breath, be aware of a green color coming from the trunk of your body. And as you exhale, allow that green color to become a cord going down to the center of the earth. Breathe it down there. And feel the earth, this incredible being we live with, this partner. Feel that she receives that and sends more green back up from the center. This is a place where we can be really replenished. And allow that green to move through your body. The green vitality. And let's just do a few sounds. This is also a way, especially with this fast pace that we're living in, is to just do a few ohms. So let's do that. Take a breath again and just see how you feel. And in this place, imagine yourself in one of your favorite places of nature that you've already been to. And just place yourself there. Maybe you're on the ground, maybe you're sitting on a chair. And open your senses. Do you feel the wind? Is there a small rain? What's happening in the environment around you? Are there bushes sparkling? And connect to nature this way. See and feel where you are. Feel yourself with the ground. Open up to perhaps something you've never seen before. And invite nature to truly be with you. Take a breath as you're doing it, because the breath is an invitation as well to allowing your body to truly be present. And nature responds to breath. She's all about breath, movement. It's a major way to bond. This is a shorter version, but this is something that you can do. So you just come in gratitude for this amazing ability we have as humans, and this amazing partner, this amazing support. Nature is here all the time for us. We just need to create the space and the time to do this. It's part of what we really deserve, It's who we are. So send gratitude to all around. That also opens up more opportunities for you. And when you're ready, you can come back to where you are right now. And then open your eyes when you're ready.
How am I supposed to go back to work after that? That was so lovely. Is it normal to have like an emotional response?
Oh, yes, sweetie. In
Okay.
fact, that means you're really connecting. Yes, that
Okay.
means it's very emotional. It
Yeah.
can, yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, I am so sad to say that our time is up. I want to spend more time talking with you, but but I want to thank you so much, Anne Marie, for being on the show with us today and for sharing your wisdoms and the exercises and everything that you have. So thank you so, so much.
Oh, you're so welcome. Well, you've been with this book for a long time, so I
Yes.
really appreciate you. You were
Well,
there.
it's lovely
Yeah.
to revisit it and get reacquainted, and I really hope that a lot of our viewers decide to do the same. So thank you again, Anne Marie, and I will just close the show by letting you know what's coming up next week. We will be talking with Joyce Hawkes, who is the author of Cell Level Healing and Resonance. And we will be talking about how Joyce went from scientist to healer and how we can heal on a cellular level. So we will see you all next week. Thank you so much.